This woman was bitten while mowing her yard. Then months later, dark spots began covering her body. While out in the yard mowing her lawn one day, Calvina was bitten by an unidentified bug. Soon after, she was struck by a mysterious rash which saw the skin by her ankles turn green and purple. Gradually, brown spots and an unbearable itch spread all over her body. Doctors were stumped. No one could diagnose what it was. Calvina from Oklahoma believes her problems all stem from her cutting the grass one day. As she remembers, she was bitten by an insect in her yard, but she didn't know what the bug was. It wasn't long before her health began to suffer. First, a mark appeared on Calvina's ankle. She described it to the health-related TV talk show The Doctors as being green and purple in color and around the size of a quarter. Soon, however, the unexplained blemish grew bigger and a rash began to spread across her body. Several weeks after the blemish first appeared, a dark mark appeared on Calvina's arm. But then another spot appeared and another and then another. The rash gradually spread until it covered her arms, hands, torso, and legs all the way down to her feet. Though Calvina also had some dark blemishes on the back of her head, her face was spared. But the rash on the rest of her body was so unsightly she permanently covered up. Even in the hottest of summers, she'd wear long sleeves and pants to hide her condition. Calvina covered her body out of shame, embarrassed by the multitude of spots that dotted her skin. And she knew they were odd-looking. She knew because strangers would stare at her. They looked at her as though they might catch whatever affliction punctuated her flesh. As uncomfortable as others may have been looking at the blemishes, living with them was even more excruciating.
Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story.
The itching that the spots caused was unbearable and often kept Calvina awake at night. She'd scratch at the irritations until the thick, hard spots would bleed. The rash affected every aspect of Calvina's world. She had difficulty sleeping at night, and during the day she felt people would judge her without knowing her. Furthermore, it also caused problems at work. If ever Calvina started to itch while at the office, it would turn into a major distraction. I remember a time I had to leave away from my desk because I went into an itch attack, Calvina explained on The Doctors. And the rash is everywhere, so when I go into an itch attack, it's probably going to be a little while. And so I come back out and I was actually bleeding through my pants. Calvina went to see a dermatologist who performed a biopsy on her bumps. However, the best diagnosis on offer was that she had prurigo, which is a catch-all term for itchy spots. The poor woman was left none the wiser as to what was causing the affliction or how to stop it. Calvina tried every medication doctors prescribed to treat her condition. However, no matter what lotions, pills, or medication she was given, nothing eased the itching or stopped the rash from spreading. After 7 years living with the problem, she was desperate. With nowhere to turn, Calvina contacted the doctors. On the show, top-level dermatologist Dr. Sonia Batra performed an array of tests to discover what was causing Calvina's condition. Dr. Batra described the prurigo as one of the most interesting cases I've ever seen. Through the tests Dr. Batra performed, she learned that Calvina's rash developed as a result of 2 underlying conditions that had never been diagnosed. What's more, the dermatologist learned that both disorders could easily be treated. Could this be the end of 7 years of discomfort for Calvina? Dr. Batra explained the blood test she performed revealed that Calvina had a case of hypothyroidism. This occurs when insufficient levels of hormones are produced by the thyroid gland. The condition is in fact a fairly common one and results in a chemical imbalance in the body. This can give rise to a number of symptoms, including fatigue, depression, and dry skin, and if the chemical imbalance remains untreated, the condition will grow worse. In Calvina's case, however, Dr. Batra discovered a secondary issue which exacerbated the problem. Calvina's biopsies revealed a much rarer condition called urticarial vasculitis. This is an autoimmune affliction which causes blood vessels to swell. Combined with a hyperthyroidism, Dr. Batra believed it was the cause of the itching and unsightly blemishes over Calvina's body. And there was more good news for Calvina. Not only had the cause of her condition been identified, but as it happened, it was also easily treatable. Of course, the news for Calvina came as a huge emotional relief. Having lived with the condition for so long, she'd lost all hope. Dr. Batra identified the first step was to regulate Calvina's hormone production. Once the hormones were more balanced, the urticarial vasculitis would then be treated to make the itching stop. When the swollen blood vessels settled down, work could begin on Calvina's unsightly blemishes, which themselves were a symptom of everything else. Whereas others had said Calvina had hives, they were merely looking at her symptoms. She had therefore been taking the wrong medications for 7 years. Consequently, she'd seen no improvement in her condition. Dr. Batra, however, had finally identified the root cause of Calvina's issues. With a treatment plan in place, Dr. Butler referred her patient to Dr. Adrienne Lamb's skincare clinic in Oklahoma City, near where Calvina lives. There, she'd undergo a course of steroid injections expected to last anything from 6 months to a year. Happily, Lamb agreed to take on the case free of charge, something that added to the emotion Calvina was already experiencing. "I didn't think you'd hear me," she said, "but you heard me."
If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone who may find it interesting too. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.